Good morning. Welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev. We have no idea what's going to transpire today as we are having a moment ourselves.
Yes, it is. It is. It's one of those days that no matter how much you'd want to push to do something, it's not the way it's supposed to go. And the funny thing is, I don't feel a push. It's just a strange, we're what, 10 minutes later than we normally, no, now it's 10:21. We're
It's like
21
20
minutes later
minutes.
than normal. Yeah, quite a bit of difference. So there's been a lot of things that have happened this morning in order for me to get connected. So many crazy things going on.
And Bev texts me, she's like, hey, I'm gonna be a few minutes late. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm just doing my thing until she was ready. And it just is. Okay, so I'm just gonna, because we talk about this a lot, about the control freak, about the stepping into that anger or frustration mentality when something isn't on time, right? Because in my control freak days, if we weren't starting at 10, man, I'm just like, where is she? What do we do? Right?
Yeah, let's just reschedule. Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 minutes now. Oh, my whole day's off now because she's late, right? And you know what? It's like there's more going on now. That would have been my old behavior for sure, no doubt about it. We would have got on to record and I'd just be like, meh. But there's so much more going on in this universe than we can even fathom. And as we're recording this, we record in Zoom, and then I take that download and then I put it up to all the platforms to post on Thursday. So we record on Tuesday, we post it on Thursday out to the public. But as we're recording in Zoom, typically majority of the time on Tuesday mornings, we stream live it into our Facebook group, which is Amie and Bev community. So it could be like we started late because there might be somebody in that group, in that Facebook group, who's going to catch our conversation because we started late. Whether that is the truth or not, it doesn't matter. The idea is that there's so much more going on than we are aware of when things like this happen. So there's nothing to control in this situation. I can't control if Bev's going to be late. I can't control if she's fumbling with her keys in the door or she don't have her right setup stuff for her phone. I can't control any of that. I can control how I show up in this situation, and I could show up frustrated, which would maybe, not that it did, but it could contribute to her already being frustrated. And then our conversation is not going to be that good for either one of us or for our audience. So for me to just sit back and go, okay, well, this is just the way it is this morning. And you know what, if I had something to do immediately after our recording, then I could just say, okay, Bev, we're running a little late and I have this to do, so we got to cut it short today. You know what, we can always adjust. It's called being flexible. A control freak is not flexible. A control freak wants things on time, their way. This is how we're doing it. You cannot deviate from our plan. And it's just so rigid. When you're co-creating with the universe, when we're co-creating with somebody else on your team, flexibility is super important. And you know what? Why would I want to show up in a space of frustration? And then that's going to affect not only our conversation, but it's going to affect, because when we get off this, I go into doing my stuff for my business. I'm going to take that frustrated or angry or controlling energy. It's all about the energy. And then go into and work on my business. Do you know how much effect that's going to have on my business stuff when I'm laying out classes and creating things for my class? That energy is going into that. So yeah, I'm good, sister. We're good. We're golden. And I absolutely love, because this is a check-in for me, right? Whether this had anything to do with anybody else, this is a check-in for me. How am I doing with being flexible?
Absolutely.
I think I got an A+ today, so I'm good.
That's what I was going to say. It's to recognize from the space that we're in right now, like, kudos to us. In the past, I would have been rushing and trying to pass everybody and would have been frustrated. I know those feelings. I did not feel any of those feelings today. And it's like for the opportunities, it's an opportunity to show us our own growth. There's like so much growth that's happening, but I do think there's more to it. It's always divine timing, always. It always is. So for me, I just felt like there was no rush. I've had some interesting things in the last few days happen to me, and it's like I'm not even sure. So when I discuss this, it's going to be like I'm open to whatever you receive or whatever information you're having, because this is new to me. So I've been listening to Suzanne Giesman, and she was a military officer for 20 years in the Navy, I believe. I don't exactly know her title, but she was pretty well up there in status. But she had lost her stepdaughter. She had been struck by lightning also in the Marines. She was a Marines, and she was walking across a big area at work, and she got struck by lightning. She was 6 months pregnant. So I'm listening to this person, which I think we probably discussed recently, and I'm like, she wasn't resonating with me a month ago when someone brought it to my attention. And then now she's resonating with me. And the more I hear her story, it's like, the things, her experiences, it's pretty phenomenal to me. It's pretty phenomenal because we go back to the whole process. I'm not just looking at the person. I'm not just using an analytical mind when I'm receiving the information from the person. We go back to the energy, like you said, however we show up in this situation with our energy makes all the difference in the world. It can make or break anything. It has to do with our energy. Because if we're not in a good mood and we're coming across that way, well, then I would say that someone that matches that mood would have to be the one that would be in our crowd. But it's the opposite. So anyways, I'm going through his experiences. I'm listening to his stuff, and I kind of dozed off yesterday because for whatever reason, the last week or 2 weeks, no matter what, and maybe other people are resonating with this as well, I have to take a nap. I have to. I could sit there and be holding my phone or doing something, and I'm going to fall asleep. Like it's that literal. And I've never had this experience where I'm holding my phone and it's like my head's back. I'm like, and I catch myself, and and then Freeman says, "Yeah." Freeman's on the phone. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm watching Bev meditate right now." Which brings me to my next thing, right? So I've been meditating like probably the last 3 days, like consistently putting focus on it, and then recognizing even as we're going to sleep, that small amount of time before we fall asleep, we're in that meditative space. And then also when we wake up in the morning, we're in that space. So the naps are not anything different. I'm in that space. So I'm in that space, and then Freeman and I are talking about some stuff because right now we're I would say there's a bit of a struggle because we're on solar. We had cloud coverage for a majority part of the day. The way the solar was set up, it was set up to receive sun mostly in the wintertime, which is not very beneficial in the summertime. So now we're having to run a generator, which is just hard to comprehend, with as much money that was put into the system for it to be where it's at. And we're living in a house where it's 86 degrees. That's with the small unit on to try to keep us. That's just keeping it at 86, 87 degrees. And then it can't stay running the whole time because we don't have enough juice into the batteries. So all this process is going on, and I'm waking up and I'm like, this process is helping me to understand, to communicate. Number one of the big, huge things. And it's for us to understand. And it's also for me, I'm recognizing the things that he says or the way he reacts or responds to what I say is not about me. And that's really crucial to pay attention to those things. Before, if I was in a reactive state, I would never have allowed myself the process of seeing how this wasn't about me. I would have been in that, I'd have been already all over the whole situation, right? I would have been responding. So we're talking, and I'm in this weird space, and I'm looking at him, and I say to him, because I feel weird. Like I'm kind of in that meditative space. I'm a little bit past that space, but I'm still kind of maintaining this zone area, which I recognize as meditation. And I'm talking to him, and I feel like all of a sudden I could barely see through my eyes. And he's like, I said, the reason I'm looking at you this way is I don't know. I said, I have a weird sensation across my frontal lobe area, my whole front of my skull here. And I said, and I feel like, he says, it's like, looks like you are having a migraine or the sun's in your eyes. I said, yeah, but that's how it feels, like I can't see through. And it felt weird. And he said it was so crazy. It was like an overlay. He said, you look like you were almost 30 years older than you are right now. And he says, I don't even recognize who you were. And I'm like, well, do you think it was your dad? Because his dad passed away. Do you think, because now I'm at a point where I'm feeling like something. He said that something, he said it definitely felt like something crossed through you or went through you, because it was there for a few minutes and it's like we were talking and then it went away and then it started coming back again. So I do believe there's some experiences going on, but I just wanted to throw it out there. This whole process, this whole journey to get to that point.
That's cool. I'm just like, wow, that's awesome.
It's just, but I'm open to it now. And then it's like, I'm even asking Jim, and Jim is my husband, for anybody that hasn't been watching, that had passed away in 2020. And well, passed away, he transitioned, he dumped his carcass. I mean, we can call it anything we want to call it. But the thing is, he was no longer, he shed that skin and laid the suit on the floor. That's exactly how I would see it. Because even Suzanne says, when I saw my daughter, my stepdaughter laying it, in that, she's like, I recognize there's so much more to us, because it was lifeless, and the soul is what gives that so much life. And that gives me goosebumps just to say that whole process, because it's true. Without our soul in that body, that's just like a shed. That's like a pair of pajamas laying on the floor, which may sound so nonchalant, careless, but that's not really the truth, because what I cared about was that soul that was no longer inhabiting that physical suit anyways. But I asked him, I said, do I need, because Suzanne Giesman also has classes you can do online. It's $195. That's not a huge price. It's doable. She even honors if you need assistance, and she'll look at it, just send her what your story is, and then she'll offer whatever she can offer for you. But I'm asking Jim, do I need that? And he says, no. But the thing is, do I want it for my confidence? Yeah. And the class is for mediumship. It's also because she channels and she's a mediumship. So, I mean, she is a medium.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I'm doing a mediumship class in August.
That's awesome. But isn't that like a wonderful sign though? It's a wonderful sign.
What I want to talk about is the idea that, I like to see like where we're at compared to where we were. And, in days past, you might have just been like, I don't know what's happening right now. I got some pressure going on. Like you would have just totally went, like, not even acknowledged what was going on.
Call 911. You know what I mean?
I know.
From a victim standpoint, yeah.
Maybe I'm feeling dehydrated, or maybe I just, I'm having a heat stroke. But instead, you said you embraced it and, felt into it. And that's, I think, is super important for people to understand that we talk about this all the time, is feel into your body. Your body is the indicator. And describing it out loud to your partner so that he can understand what you're sensing, but he's seeing it from the external view and sharing what he's seeing. And that's great that you guys have that. You're in a space now to be able to share, this is what I see is happening, and this is what I feel is I'm experiencing. And it's been said years ago that the more people that are studying and talking about and believing in the spirit world, the fact that we are more than just this body, that when our spirit has learned what it's come to learn, it drops physical body, just like you said, like it's a suit, it's a skin suit, it's like the pajamas we put on it every night. If you wear pajamas, we just drop, like we're done with it. And now our soul, our spirit can move back into the energetic space of where it came from source. And the more people, the more we're talking about it, the more we're believing in it, the more people that are sharing their experiences. And I think that is crucial, that people are sharing what they're experiencing with spirit, that the thinner that veil keeps getting. And things like this do happen. I mean, I'll have moments because I'm typically home, you know, by myself. And so I'll have moments like I get lightheaded, and for a second, like I've just checked out. I mean, it's a glimpse, but it's like, okay, I don't know what just happened, but something just happened.
Mhm.
And I read, you know, I love the memes on social media, and one said, have you ever thought that when you went into we're going to a different room to get something and you forget? Do you ever consider that maybe an alien was in there and they erased your mind? I'm like, I'm using that because how often do you go into a room and you're like, I have no idea why I came in here?
It feels logical to me.
I just think
That's
it's
awesome.
funny.
But it is, it's, you go back to the whole saying, the thing, even receiving the information is one thing, but to share it to another is another thing, right? It's trusting that intuitive nudge, that voice within. And even I listened to Suzanne this morning, and she's talking about how she'll hear, yes. And it was a great explanation for me, because if you're going to do mediumship, or you're even looking at that, or you've already been experiencing it, and it's not like it's anything new, everybody can do it. It's just, where do you want to tune in? And also recognizing that it's no longer about me, it's about we. It's about, there's such love that has to be shared. Honest, I mean, I say has to be, but I feel like it has, for it to be so beneficial for all, it is to come from a space of love when you're sharing this information, and to share the information. So I have a person that we both have, and we're familiar with, that she had contacted me because her someone had contacted her, was kind of blaming her for something, like, I forgive you for, and she didn't say what it was for, right? She just left it at that. But in that same conversation, I said, I'm so glad you reached out to me, because that's why I said she reached out to me, asked me a question and what my thoughts were. And it's like, my response was, hey, can you talk? And it wasn't about this experience. It was about, I heard her son, like, I'm fine, mom, like with an, like, just like that, like with an added, like, leave me alone, everything is fine, you're quit worrying all the time, a typical young person's response. And I got that, and on a Wednesday, and I kept thinking, I'll call, no, I'm not going to. And I kind of discussed it, a little bit with another person, and then I'm like, yeah, I probably should, here we go with the should things. I probably should give her a call. But at the same time, there's a lack of confidence, and not having the trust in myself to share that information. And then when she reached out to me, she says, I've been thinking about you the last few days. And I'm like, you weren't thinking about me. I was thinking about you first. Or else her son was like trying to get us to have a conversation, because it was just so matter of fact. And I was driving, so it wasn't like I wasn't focused on it, but he's popped in a couple times, and I've never met him before. And when I say he's popped in, like, I all of a sudden will think about him, and then his name, like, right, it's just like that fast. I don't know who he is. I just know of him because we've talked to the person that had this experience, and her son had transitioned. But it's like, it just kind of caught me off. And that's just and then finally I'm like, fuck it. What do I gotta lose? Like, seriously, what is the worst thing she's gonna tell me? I'm sorry, that's not true. Oh gosh, that wouldn't be him. And she's like, she's agreeing with me that yes, that's exactly, so she says it's not to worry. And then she said, I haven't been worrying as much. And then she processed this other thing. She's like, I am so thankful for you and Amy, because we had the class, and then she wants to get together with us to do some more stuff here in the future. And she's been following your emails and everything like that. And I think she's on session 43 of our videos or something like that, because she's going back from the beginning and watching them. And she says, because it matches with me at that time, I can understand. This is where I understand this. So it was very interesting. It was that whole process was interesting to experience. And then Suzanne Giesman says that she receives this information, and yes, you can hear the voice talking to you. directly, but she said usually you kind of hear your voice. All of a sudden, it's like your voice coming in and saying things to you that you're not familiar with, that you're not used to. This isn't your terminology, but it's using your natural voice, your natural vocabulary, like it's using all those things, and then flashing images. She'll see different images, which I can see images, like all these different things. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, I can do that. It was like, oh, now I have an understanding about what's going on or what I can do if I choose to feed this. But I liked her interpretation of that, because she says that it's easier for spirit to use your vessel than it is for them to always be able to have the strength or have the energy or whatever it is to be able to talk directly to you. So I just found that it's just been an interesting process.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know I've recognized in myself that, my main gift is a feeler. So I feel energy, right? And however, we have all the gifts. So the
Yes.
knowing, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the scent, even tactile touch. We have all those gifts. But when you give attention to your strongest one and focus on that and grow into that and embrace it and utilize it and learn about it, right? It's just like giving all your attention to that, just honing in on that particular gift. All the other ones have opened. And
Yes.
now it's a knowingness. Like
Yeah.
energy to me is first. I feel energy.
Absolutely.
But everything else has opened up. Like my grandfather shows up around me with the scent of smoke, and it is so strong that it bothers my eyes and it will affect my voice. Like I'm sitting in a bar, remember when they smoked in the bars all the time and we're there dancing on, like I get stuffy in my eyes. I'm like, all right, grandpa, I get it. You're here and I appreciate that. And I acknowledge you. And he usually shows up when around celebrations, or when it's random, it's because something's coming that I'm going to have to step up in my strength and power. But recently it's been a lot of knowing and receiving that information of, oh, say this, or, oh, do this, or it's just, I just know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so freaking cool. It's so cool if you want to embrace it. And yeah, it's spirit utilizing us in our physical form to help us. If more people could understand that it is our innate gift to utilize our connection with spirit instead of thinking it's a voodoo, bad, horrible thing, you know how much easier. So I know I struggled. I had so much resistance for so long, and I had this idea of spirit because I had experiences at a very young age. However, it was so feared at that time that I didn't really learn about it until I was given a book at the age of 28 and then started reading about it. And then it wasn't until my 30s that I really started embracing it and really studying it and learning it and utilizing it. And now I'm 52 and it's like, this is so freaking cool. It's so fun. It's created more ease in my life because I embrace that connection. And think about somebody, they call you. You think about somebody, there they are. They're standing in the grocery store. And you know what? I typically shop at one store, but something will say, no, go to this store. And I'll go there and there's that person. It's like, this is something to embrace. It is not something to be feared.
It is. And then if you stop and feel about it, one's being open, right? Open and allowing and flowing. And the other one's so restrictive. It really is. And it feels restrictive when you think, oh God, no, oh no, that's not. Stop and feel. How does that feel when you're saying that? Even if somebody's saying something, if someone's talking about, I haven't been around anybody, but if they were talking about devil worship or something along those lines, I'm going to witness it in a neutral standpoint now. and see what information is there for me, because everything's been made to be such voodoo and so not to do. And I'm not saying I'm going to go out and do that stuff, but I feel it and see how does that resonate with myself. And it's the same thing. It's acknowledging our knowings when we have those, because we'll have them more and more often. I was just having a conversation with a person with their name yesterday, and I'm like thinking, listen, this is what you're here for. And because I was sitting outside meditating again. Like, so I've been meditating. It's so crazy, but and I've been guided to it for a long time. And I guess I kind of pushed away from it because probably my words is really what I could kind of associate, because I was asking myself these questions, like, why have you been pushing away against something that's so beneficial for you? You have time. You have time to sit there and breathe for a minute. You have time to whatever you want to do. You have that time. We just make the time for it. And it's like, I've noticed such a huge things are like, I'm even shifting that much faster. My thoughts are coming out more complete instead of you guys hearing, and maybe still, but instead of you guys hearing part of the story and then having to hook up into my mind to hear the rest of that. So you understood what the hell was going on. Like, oh, okay. Because the information would have been so much more valuable had the conversation been completed. But a lot of times my mind would go off on another tangent or on another direction. And I don't feel that way. I just feel in a different space. And it's like looking at life through those eyes. It's so different. It is. It really, really is. It feels so good.
And I've heard too, and we've said it on a different level of what you focus on grows. So if you're focused on the chaos of your life, you're going to get more chaos in your life, because that's what the universe hears, right? If you want to believe in the voodoo, if you want to believe in the devil, if you want to believe in the negativity of this world, that's what you're going to see, and that's what you're going to get more of, and you're going to get confirmations of it. So whether you choose to believe spirit is good and loving and is here to help us and is guiding us and is beneficial, I mean, that's where Bev and I are. We're like, you know what? We're coming from a loving space. We want more love in our life. We want more ease in our life. And this is our belief system. So if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. We're not here to push our beliefs onto you. It's if you're listening to us, you're just being open to hearing something from a different perspective. Now, if you want to believe in the negativity side of life and things and ideologies and stuff, you're going to get more of it, and you're going to get plenty to confirm that. So I didn't know this until about 2 years ago, I think. And I'm just going to hit up on it very lightly. And, if people want to have a conversation about it, I'm open to it, but I personally haven't done the research. However, the mentor that I have, I strongly believe in her, and I feel good about her sharing this, is that 666 is always in my lifetime has been the devil's number, right? It's a bad thing. Well, my mentor, she created a card deck, and it has like ascended masters, animals, numbers, and symbols. And then she has the number in there because it's like 111, 222, 333. That's the numbers that she used. And so the 666 is in there. And from her research, she found that 666 eons ago was actually a very powerful spiritual number. And it was turned into the devil's number along the way of things changing and control happening. And so it's like, look into, because I've not ever, I mean, maybe when I was younger, because that's what the movies portrayed, but as I got older, I'm like, it's a number. And what I would do is I'm like, oh, 6 + 6 + 6 is 18. 8 + 1 is 9. 9's the end of a cycle. We're gonna, right? I'm going into the numerology part once I understood that better. And it's like, it's a number. It's a number. However, if you want to put a negative connotation on it, then that's where your focus is, and that's what you're going to get more of.
Then you're right?
And you're right.
No matter
Either
what
way,
you
you're
think,
right.
no matter what you think. Yeah. No matter what you think, you're right. You're right. Okay. You believe that's evil? Okay, you're right. I believe this way and I'm right. You know what I mean? It's just whatever and whatever's in someone's perspective. And going back to the knowing, which I didn't finish that story, was because I did my wonderful thing that I have done in the past. But anyways, talking to the person about their name and everything like that, and like your name, you were named this for a reason. Like there's a reason. And as we're talking, I'm like getting louder about it. I'm getting more matter of fact, and I could feel that within myself that it was a knowing. And the best way I could portray it was like, I just know. I just know. I don't know what to say, but I just know. And that's all I could say, because that's how it felt. I just know. That's end of story. That's all I got for you. The end. But that, where it goes back to that knowing, that sensation, that feeling of feeling that at that time when you're saying something like that, you just know. Goosebumps are our confirmations. When our eyes well up, it can be either a trigger or it's the confirmation that our soul's like, yes, this is exactly the way I want you to go. It's like it, but it's like you learn this new language, and you're interpreting, which we talked about in the beginning, because we were both kind of fumbling around with words when we first started, before we got on camera too much. And we're like, we're gonna need an interpreter, sign language, and probably a few other things. Probably a mind reader, so they can type out exactly what we meant to say.
And look how good we're doing. This is great.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful because we're connected though. And I'll go back to the beginning of the conversation. You could have been totally pissed off because, well, let's face it, I was pretty fucking late. Honestly, if we want to go by time frames, but I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that urgency, that rush. I just knew like, okay, well, the traffic is the way the traffic is. The clock was the way the clock was. Keys working the way the keys working. Okay. I'm going to go along with this because I don't know what it's going to be, how it's going to be. Just like when we get together and have these conversations, we don't know what's going to happen in these conversations. I'm excited for the thing that happened to me yesterday. I'm excited for hearing the messages. I'm excited that I'm hearing Jim talking to me. I'm excited about those things. And I can tell you what cuts it off immediately is grief, anger, being pissed off, all these emotions that we feel, and it's all right to feel them, But as soon as I get into those places, now I'm separate. So now I'm back to that separation, whether I want to believe in someone's ideology. I was going to say something like ideality or some bullshit. I was making up words.
Their
But
ideas
anyways,
and
if I want to
reality.
believe, yeah, there you go. But if I want to believe in all that stuff and I want to restrict myself and I want to be in a box, then that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can tell you the way it feels for me.
Right.
And I can tell you one feels better than the other. Like leaps and bounds better. Like I'm flitting among the clouds right now and there's butterflies flying around. Oh, there goes the unicorn. But otherwise I'm down on the dirt and it's like, where the hell did all this evilness come from? You know what I mean? It's where my focus is at, where my energy's at.
I think that's so cool. I love this conversation.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I think it's so cool that you're having a class coming up about the stuff. And it goes back to the same thing. It's, for me, a class outside of myself is just building the confidence, right? It's learning new skills, but it goes all the way back to going back into your meditation practices and watching your words. If I'm saying I need to meditate, then it puts me in a constant state of need. If I say I have to meditate, well, that feels uncomfortable. More than likely, I'm not going to do that because it feels like it's something I have to do. Like mom or dad's never being like, you have to go do this. Well, you can't have any cake or ice cream until you go do this. You know what I mean? It feels like that kind of a struggle. So for me, it was being aware of my words. And now it's like, even last night I was telling Freeman, I'm like, yeah, I will meditate every day. Oh, no, I am meditating. I meditate all the time. I'm just like changing the conversation because those words feel better. And the meditation part feels better. If I hadn't gone for the cranial sacral and hadn't been in 2 hours of basically a meditation, because every time I would doze off, she would end up switching her handhold. I would snore for a second. My arm might flip out and it would bring me right back into that place of meditation, which is freaking awesome. So I spent so much time in that space, but I got a taste of it again.
Yeah.
And it's not, and of course we go back to the whole saying of balance and harmony. It's not to obsess about one or the other, but it's recognizing, well, if I feel tired, take 5 minutes. If I am angry, take 5 minutes. If I am happy, take 5 minutes. Like take 5 minutes in that space and see what other great information comes up for you. It's just like, it's just like an opportunity all the time. It's just creating that balance and harmony, really.
And when you talk about meditation, I just want to hit on like meditation and spirit connection. For me, when I sit down to meditate, I have to have a pen and paper next to me, because I know that once I clear all that chatter and bring myself into the present moment and am just being, that's when ideas flow to me. Now, they are not my ideas, but those ideas came from somewhere. And it's flowing to me. And this is what I heard recently. I think you've talked about it too in past videos, is that when we receive information to do something, meaning maybe it's an idea for a class or an idea of how to have a conversation with somebody, or to call somebody, or whatever it is, this information, you're sitting in meditation, this information comes down. Spirit source is recognizing we're in a space to receive information. And they're like, okay, we're going to plant this seed. Now, it is up to me as Amie, as the human being, to do something with it or not do something with it. And if I choose to not do something with it, Spirit will find another person who is in a space to receive that seed, and they're going to take it and they're going to run. So when that was because I sit meditation, I'm just being in the moment. And that's when these, like, I call it downloads. These downloads start coming and I'm like, oh shoot, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, and I'll sit and I'll in a meditation, I'll write down all this stuff, planning a class, because I'm in that space to receive the information with ease. And that's what's so important, is it is with ease. It's not a struggle. Now I could take that class layout and say, oh, that was a great idea. I'll get to it. I'll get it scheduled. And then I procrastinate on it. I just keep pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. Well, somebody else is going to get that information too. And they're going to take that information. They're going to implement it. They're going to go with it. And that could be the catapult for their success. Like, it could be a multimillionaire idea. Right? If we want to put it in that perspective, in a material perspective. So when we receive information from Spirit, we get to choose to do something with it or not. We get to choose to stop at that different grocery store or not. We get to choose to turn right instead of left. We get to make that decision even when we've been given that information. And the more I think about that, even as I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, my mentor, she's like, when I get an idea, I act on it right now. I implement it right now, because I am receiving that information for a reason. That class could be something that needs to be scheduled right now because it's going to touch thousands of people's lives. But if I choose not to do it, it's not going to, it most likely is not going to touch the lives of the people that are connected to me or the people connected to them. But somebody's going to take it and it's going to affect the people that's connected to them. So it will end up touching thousands of lives, just not in my path, but somebody else's path. Man, when I think about that, I'm just like, you get that information. It's not something to just put aside. It's something like, oh, let's do this right now. Or as soon as possible, as soon as your schedule allows. Like, don't just keep putting off. I'm the type, I'm like, that's great. And I'll put it off until I can get to it. But sometimes those things, they need to be implemented like right away.
Well, so for the instance of the sun reaching out to me in ways, I would say definitely reached out to me. I was going to change the wording because it sounds whatever. I don't care. That the feeling was, yeah, he reached out to me,
called you,
and I wasn't responding right away, but there was something more. It was like, no, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. I'm going to pop in. I'm going to pop in. So it kept popping in. And also what I recognize, when we don't listen to our intuitive nudges, when we don't listen to spirits, when the first time you start ignoring it, and now you're thinking, oh God, I'm not getting any message anymore. No, you've already taught yourself right then, when that nudge comes in, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to respond to it. So on an individual basis, regardless of anybody else, because we do know if Einstein didn't choose to take the information that was being placed in front of him, in him, somebody else would have done it, and probably was doing it at the same time, because you hear that other countries were doing the same thing at the same time, because they had an individual that they were both receiving it, and it's however they decided to move forward on it. So it's like, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as way I'm ignoring my intuition. When my intuition comes forward, again, that goes right back to yourself, and now that means I'm ignoring myself. Self is talking to me. My higher self is flowing through me. Spirit's flowing through me. God is flowing through me. However you want to look at things. And I'm choosing to not listen to that. And why? Because we're here on our own free will. So it's our choice. It's our choice to ignore those things. But it's an opportunity. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but it's to recognize, oh, I could do that differently. Because again, we go back to the whole feeling things. It feels so much better when you're listening to and responding. Now, a few things I'll point on is, I was listening to Suzanne, and she's talking about, she always has a notebook and paper next to her bed, which you've talked about doing. And now again, you brought up having a notebook and paper to write stuff down during meditation or any of these things. And I haven't. So that for me, so it is my like intuition. It's me it's messages coming back to me to let me know this is part of the process. And it's good for you to have this on the side, because I'm going to start receiving more and more information. Because otherwise, what happens if I don't have nothing to write it down, no way to record it, and I'm receiving the information, I'm going to get flustered, or I'm going to be like, oh my God, there's too much, or I'm overwhelmed, whatever the feeling might be. And now I shut that down completely. So it's for me to go with the flow with it, and maybe be like, okay, can you slow it down just a little bit? Or, and that goes back with the communication, all these things that we're doing inside of ourselves that we're doing on the outside of us as well. The communication, the self-love, the listening, all these things. It's like, it's such a great benefit. These are enhancing, all those things are enhancing every single one of our gifts. Every single one of them is a practice, right? We've been feeling our whole lives. We've been feeling everything. So that's why I'm a feeler too. I didn't recognize it until about 10 years ago, when I started going through massage school and ended up in a new age store feeling stones and felt high as a kite, because I was so connected. It was so crazy, but I was looking for that high and not looking for that connection, so to speak, at that time. But so this whole journey that I've gone on, and it's all along, it's been letting me know that I was naturally a feeler, because we grew up in that environment. We grew up in the environments where the dad's angry, or the stepdad's angry, or the mom is angry or sad or whatever. We grew up feeling all that stuff. So we were very familiar with it. And then like listening for me hurt, because I heard a lot of things when I was being molested by my grandfather. When I finally was like, this is not right, you need to stop, or I'm telling. And he's like, well, you tell, and I'm going to hurt your sister. I'll kill your sister. Those kind of conversations. And so I didn't want to hear that stuff. So I've gone through it's taken me to 52 to be able to be in this space and have an understanding about where it was, not from a victim standpoint, but like, oh, I don't need that anymore. That was something that it was so simple as me ignoring my intuition. It was something so simple as, just feeling how I feel. So now I'm growing the hearing part. I'm growing the seeing part. When we first started having conversations, you weren't visualizing things. You couldn't visualize it all the way through, or visualize even a room, right? Was that the case?
Yeah, I couldn't visualize my future.
And then like, if you were to decorate a home, and maybe I'm wrong, then you could see,
decoration.
okay. Yeah. But you see things differently now.
Yeah.
Because you've gone through the whole process. Because when you recognize I can't do something, which the universe doesn't hear can't,
Right.
They're going to show you all the ways possible that you can. And because I remember this was just a few years ago. Well, maybe it's been like 4 years ago now, but it's crazy when you think about it, how much you've changed and how much you've grown that. Like that's actually becoming more of a strength for you.
Yeah. And it's because I asked now.
Exactly.
So I got to hit on this, because this is really interesting, because we've been talking about this, right? Ask. You have to ask the universe will provide. So the other day, I was listening to Vishen, who is owner of Mind Valley. There's a big spiritual thing talks about the mind, like they're really into focusing on the mind. And I'm not kidding you. I listened to this is Tuesday. I listened to it on, I think it was Friday. And okay, so let me just say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, and when we're ready to hear the information, we are open to receive that information, right?
Yeah.
So he says, and there's no doubt I've heard this before. No doubt in my mind, I've heard this probably 100 times before. But what he said is, the mind is a problem solver. So when you ask the question, then the mind starts to find ways to answer or bring a solution. So instead of, saying, in a space of overwhelm, I don't know how I'm going to get all this stuff done. There's so much to do. I'm focused on the problem. My energy is like chaotic. But instead, if I go, how do I get so much done in a short amount of time? How is it possible that I can pay off my credit card bills in the next 90 days? How is it possible that my relationships are so full of love and so nurturing of one another? When you start asking questions like that, the mind's like, oh, well, let's find a solution to that. Let's see how we can get so much done in a short amount of time. Let's see how that because she's got to have some money. So let's see how that money can come to you so you can get those credit cards paid off, right? The mind, subconscious mind starts finding solutions. So it's the same thing you and I have been talking about for how long? Like a year at least, almost every single week. And here it was presented to me in this way. The mind is a solution-oriented part of our being, and it wants a problem to solve. But we have to ask the question. And to me, seems like if you wanted to say negative or positive, asking it in a positive way, in a solution-oriented way, in a loving space, not with the crazy problem-focused mind or energy.
Yeah, like in a wonder sort of way. Like I say, I wonder where that is, or I wonder where the dogs are, or I wonder what it would feel like to, it's just wonder. It's being in that space of wonder. So second time I've heard Mind Valley today, which is crazy. So now I'm asking myself, I wonder why Mind Valley is showing up for me. Because that's the second time I'm listening to the other conversation, being an interview, and they're talking about Mind Valley. And I almost want to say it might have even been one of the videos I heard yesterday as well. It's also celebrating the mind, right? We've learned to like push the mind away. We've learned to push the ego away instead of embracing those things. Because when you hear some spiritual teachers talking, it's like, oh, well, you're just getting caught up in your mind. Like it's a bad thing. Your mind's not a bad thing. It's a tool. It just depends on how you're using it. Your ego is not a bad thing. It's a tool. It depends on how you're using it. Your ego might be your fight or flight. And then if you're in a space of danger and you intuitively receive a message, now that might receive into your body to fight or flight. So, I mean, it's like all these good things, but at the same point, it's to stay out of your own way, to get out of your own way. The way that we can have these connections, the way that we can be able to practice mediumship, the way that we can receive messages, the way we can have meditations, because all of that stuff helps us get out of our own way. And getting out of our own way just means not having the constant chatter. And it's recognizing, again, because I had to recognize recently, and we talk about if you're thinking of the past, you're depressed. And if you're in the future, you're experiencing anxiety. So it's recognizing where your thoughts are at. And I have been in the same space and recognizing where my thoughts were at. And sometimes it's just to feel through the experience to get to the other side of this where I'm at right now, to look at it and say, well, I was experiencing those because I was in this space of separation, because I was in this space where I cut off my connection. So it's just this whole process, that everything is like, it's all, we talk about so many different things, but all of it really is just one thing. It all leads you back to the same thing. It's just that connection, that feel good time, that feel good, gosh, when you're in that space and you know you're connected, because it's like the words are flowing through you. The person across from you is like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. And then they're sharing with you and it's so wonderful to you, but it feels good. Like it feels so amazing, like so amazing. You have conversations there during the conversation. You probably have like 15 15,000 goosebumps like throughout the whole conversation, because it's so true, and it's so honest, and it's so just being ourselves. It's freaking amazing.
It is amazing. And you know, when you said, this is the second time I've heard of Mind Valley. Week and a half ago, I was asked to be a keynote speaker in October.
Nice.
Now, this would be a first experience for me. So I was like, okay. And implementing what we teach, ask, how can I bring a good, be a good presenter, keynote speaker, right? How can I lift this group of women up with my story? And so here comes an email about, here's a free, in fact, it starts today, by the way. Here's a free 5-day thing on how to put your speaking topic together, yada, 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 right? Great. Signed up for it. Starts today at noon, just so you know, but
because you asked how. Yeah, keep going. This is awesome.
So then Vishen, okay, I'm listening to Vishen about the mind and it's a problem solver, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, and then we're going to be having Lisa Nichols is going to come and share. And now I know Lisa Nichols, she was in The Secret. I've listened to a lot of her content. I haven't listened to her in a while, but she is an incredible storyteller and speaker. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it works. Who else would you want to listen to and follow over these next couple months, but somebody like Lisa Nichols? Right. And I was just like, this is where I said earlier that when we ask and we're co-creating with the universe, that it's so easy. It's so easy.
Yes. Because, and it's fun, but it's fun because you have an awareness of how it's showing up for you. That's the awesome thing. So awesome thing also, as we go into this whole thing of playing, right? I have one of my clients, he loves to play with the universe. And when he plays with the universe, he creates things in his mind like a pirate ship, which is one of the things he's talked about on several occasions. He says, it's funny, I'll be driving down the road, him and his wife might be driving down the road, and they see a sign and it said, there's a pirate ship on the back of someone's vehicle. There's a pirate's thing on something else's vehicle. I'm telling the client this on Friday. We're talking about this conversation.
Can I interrupt you just 1 second?
Yeah.
This is so funny because when I got my books, I have to ship them out. And the person with my mentor and all that, she's like, oh, well, go into this. It's this program, this app is called Pirate Ship for shipping. Okay. And then not only that, but around the corner from my house, there's a sign for a political sign because we're in the space of voting right now. And it's been there for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I see it every day, whenever I pass it, I'm like, okay. But Monday, I really looked at it and there is a skull with crossbones on it, which is like a pirate, right? So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Go ahead.
That's the whole funny thing. And it kind of goes into the next part. So it's like, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to a client about it. So this is how fast things, this is just everyone else's lesson. This is how fast things show up. So nonchalantly, we're having a conversation, no big deal. Just like if I leaned forward and said, yeah, I'm a freaking millionaire now. But anyways, so as I was talking to, like, it's very nonchalant. I'm talking to this client, telling her this stuff. And I'm checking my mail this morning and it shows a package coming in. And I'm like, hey, Freeman, you have a package coming in. It's coming in from Pirate Ship. It's so funny. It's so funny because I knew, it's just part of that whole conversation. That's just part of, that's how we create things. And that's how the universe playfully shows up for us. But when we're in a space of desperation, or like, we got to have this, I need this, whatever that feeling is, it doesn't feel good, number one. And then number two, it's like being aware that it's like, if I'm just wondering about things, if I'm in that space of wonder, it gives such an opportunity for things to flow in because there's no resistance for you to receive that. It's so awesome.
It is
So awesome. It really is. All of this stuff is, gosh, I was trying to think if there was something else you talked. Oh, you talked about classes. Well, I have felt the need to do a class, and my client on Saturday is like, well, have you thought about having a group of people come together that you know, and then just seeing what kind of information flows through you and see what happens in the class? Well, that kind of makes me feel a little bit scary because then there's no plan, but I'm not a plan kind of person anyways. And I'm like, well, you know what? If I go into it with that mindset and just we're going to play with it and see what happens. Okay. Yeah, sure. Why not? So then it's like you say class, and then that's what my mind thinks of. And it's just funny how this stuff's coming forward. So now I'll check out Mind Valley, which I've listened to them before. I've listened to, very familiar with them. So when you said that, otherwise I would have been like, what's that? But it's so awesome because I had heard it just being discussed this morning. So,
And here's the thing. So there's no doubt, look, going to the events in person is way different energy than watching it through YouTube. But there's also, you know, people that are on limited incomes and are like, well, I can't afford that class, or I can't afford that workshop, or I can't afford to go to this event. Okay, great. When I listened to, and it was a random thing. I just go on YouTube and I see what pops up. Sometimes I search particular people and listen to their content, but this time Vishen shows up and I just like the title of the video. And so I clicked on it and I watched it. And then he's talking about, okay, well, we're gonna have Lisa Nichols. Well, the recording that I was watching is just Vishen, which was like an hour. Now, I went and searched for Lisa Nichols and found her segment from that event. So we have to understand that when these big speakers and influencers do these events, each speaker gets their segment and they can do with that segment whatever they want. And most likely it is in their YouTube channel.
oh yes.
So the content is there if you want to go searching for it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there for people who are like, well, I didn't go to the event either, but I got 2 influential speakers and I listened to their content because I asked for it. I asked in some way for that information to come to me.
Because this is all opportunities, and they're everywhere, and that's up to us to choose that, to listen to that nudge. That nudge is saying, hey, maybe you should go listen to this, go do this, go do that, whatever it is. And it's like when you do this. So the other day I get a nudge. Saturday, I'm like, well, I was with a client, go to Dreams Rainbow. Okay, whoa, why do I need to go to Dreams Rainbow? My daughter's birthday's coming up. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll go check it out. I didn't find anything there, but now that we've had the conversation, maybe it was just smiling at someone. Maybe it was just holding the door for someone. Maybe it kept me from being in a situation somewhere else where I was planning on going next. Who knows? Like, who knows? But it was to hear that nudge and follow through. And maybe it was just for me to hear the nudge and follow through. It's just for me to listen.
And there's something else. You're right. You're absolutely right. And it could be also what came to me was that there might be something come up later, could be a month or 2 later, where you're going to need to get a gift or something. And you're going to be like, oh, I saw that at Dreams and Rainbows.
Absolutely. And
Right.
it's very possible. It's very possible. So it's like everything makes sense. It may not make sense right this minute, but after you've gone through a sequence of events, then you recognize, oh my gosh, like that, there was that the messages were there all along. It was here all along.
And I'm just going to put this out there because I think it just popped in my head too, and there's a reason why we watched it the other day. But if you want to get an idea of how intuition works and how we're all connected, and you know, those coincidences, is a series that's fun. I thought it was fun to watch, is The Good Witch.
Okay.
It's a series, and we watched the series like a couple of years ago. We watched the whole series. I just loved watching. I was so excited about watching it every day. And then Sunday, my husband, he's a movie buff, so he's flipping through movies, you know, to see what he wanted to watch. And here are 2 movies of The Good Witch.
Oh, okay.
And we sat and watched them. And it's, I mean, it gives such a good example of how she listens, the main character listens to her intuition. And she's guiding people. She's like, hey, will you take this and drop it off here? Because her intuition's like, they need to be there at that time, or they need to be there. And then that person runs into somebody who, you know, have a conversation or get hooked up or whatever they do, make a connection. And so it's just, it's fun if you watch it from that perspective. I mean, that's what it's all about too, is listening to your intuition and following it.
That's the
The
fun part.
practice, right? That's the practice. You're listening, but are you following it?
Yeah. And doing both is a huge deal. That's just like the opportunity that's being presented to me. Sure, it's hot at home, but it's like I've told Freeman, I've been on TikTok and they've talked about free energy. So now it's for us to be curious, like, oh, I wonder how we could have free energy. And when I say free energy, I don't mean solar because, well, it costs $10,000 just for the batteries for our solar system. It costs whatever, I don't even remember how much it was, probably another $10,000 just for the solar panels. And we already had panels, but to upgrade those panels to receive more light made a huge difference. Like, so all these things, so it's not free, but they're talking about ways that you can run through water. So it's an opportunity. This is an opportunity. I can come from a victim place, because I can tell you when I'm in that space and I'm super hot, I'm like fucking angry.
Yeah.
And it's working through that process too, because it's like your blood's boiling. And that's how it feels, like I'm uncomfortable in this environment. But my opportunity is to be like, I wonder how we can live in this space and still have all these things that we want to run, like run the AC. Because we run an AC, we close off the bedroom, all the dogs are shut in the bedroom with us, and the AC is put on in that room. So it's a unit for that room. It's a wall unit. So that's all you've got. And it doesn't get freezing cold in there. We can have it set at 62 or 65 or whatever it is, but it gets to where it's a comfortable temperature, especially in these high temperatures we've received recently. So it's like, it's an opportunity. And that's why I told him today, it's like, it doesn't have to be us looking in that we have to go buy all the stuff. Let's look and see, like, let's ask the universe, let's wonder about it, and then see what's presented to us. Because there are people that are living off of free energy. They're not using, and not even using the, oh gosh, the windmills and stuff like that too. There's other things that people have that have been created over time and that people are using. They're just not selling it. So it's an opportunity. All of this is an opportunity, but to be in that space of wonder so that information can flow.
Right. I love it. So good. So good.
It is.
And there's so much more I could talk about, but it'll come up.
Yes. Yes, it will.
Okay, so there's one thing I do want to hit up on, because it was in the conversation earlier about the meditation and having the notebook and pen to write down. So there's one thing that I did hear a while back, and I think we talked about this as well, is that when you're meditating, you get this information that if you don't have anything to write it down with, then when you get done with your meditation, you can go and write it down. And whatever it is that is important for you to remember is what you need to remember in that time and take care of it. I agree with that on part. My thing is that when I get done with meditation, I'm on to the next thing. So also there's what they call automatic writing, which is where when you're in a space of quietness, you can receive that information from spirit and you let it flow through you on a pen and paper, right? So I feel you choose what works for you and know yourself. If I know that when I'm done, like I feel like I'm done with my meditation, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go on to the next thing. I'm probably not going to get up and go write down what I just meditated about. So for me to be, because I can still be in a space of receiving and write, if that's what works for me. Mm-hmm. There is no right or wrong. Know yourself and know what works.
Yeah. 100% agree. So these are just templates for you to take and and change it and let it be whatever works best for you. On these are ideas. That's it.
You could use your phone and talk, do the recording. So as you're sitting there and letting this information flow, just talking to your phone or recorder, the information, if you don't want to write, and then have it translated later. Whatever. Just find what works for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love it.
Any final words
Nope.
for this
Have
moment?
a magical week. Yep. Just a magical week. Like freaking listen to your intuition.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Follow through.
And implement.
That's right. That's right.
Don't procrastinate. Somebody else is gonna get the download. Just saying.
So I listen to my intuition and I follow through.
Isn't it interesting how easy it is to follow through with the information I receive from meditation?
Love it.
Right? We got to ask the question so that our mind says, yes, it is. Look at this. Look how you did it this time. Look how you did it that time. And then you'll keep getting confirmations that, yeah, it is easy. And you did do it.
Wonder how it could get better than that.
Right.
Yeah.
How fun is it that I get this and more? How is it that it just keeps getting better? Right? We ask the question, ask the question, ask the question. So that's what I've been playing with. And I think it's fun because now I'm just like I think I'm more aware now of how things are showing up.
Oh, yes.
Because
It
now
makes it more fun.
it's gonna be fun.
That's right. I love it.
All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. And we wish you an incredible week. You have to make it an incredible week. And we will hold that space that you do. And we will see you next time.
That's right. See you soon.